Welcome back. Today I'm going to be putting together my final predictions for Muse's new album, The Wow Signal. I have to get these predictions in early because the entire album will be previewed at early listening parties at certain record stores on the 20th, on Friday, which means that on Friday or Saturday there are going to be bootleg recordings of the whole album all over the internet, which would totally ruin my predictions video if I were to release it closer to the album release date like I was hoping to do. I'm still undecided about whether or not I'm going to actually listen to the bootleg recordings or if I'm going to hold on for a whole week until the album releases in full. I'll put a poll up so my audience can vote. Very curious to see what you will be doing, so share if you're going to be listening to the leaks or if you're going to wait until the release day. I think I'm probably going to just try and avoid the leaks. I don't think I'm going to listen to the bootlegs. I don't really like the idea of listening to some versions of a song through someone's pocket. I'd rather listen to the full studio version. Listening to live versions is a bit different. You know, that's exciting. They're teasing a new song. It's going to be a single. I don't think I want my first experience of this album to be a muffled recording on a phone. I quite like waiting for the release day to listen to the whole thing. But then on the other hand, we do already have 5 songs of this 10-song album, so there really isn't that much that's going to be released on the day. But I think I'm still going to hold out, but let me know what you're going to do because I'm very curious to find out. So the first track, The Dark Forest, I'm convinced is going to be a long build-up song, probably something like Algorithm. The song is 5 minutes and 16 seconds. That's only 10 seconds shorter than Hexagons, which is the longest song on the album. I think we'll maybe bring in a couple of layers. I'm predicting that we're going to have a synth to start us off, or maybe an atmospheric noise. We'll gradually bring in more instruments, maybe a vocal and then the bass and then the drums. We might do the electronic drums thing, turning into a real acoustic drum set, a bit like Kill or Be Killed does. And so I'm predicting a slow build up and I'm predicting it to be in G minor. In fact, I'm not going to have too much reasoning for any of my predictions in this video, but it's just the vibe and I'm going to be very, very pleased with myself if I get it right. The Dark Forest, I think it's going to be brooding and ominous. It is called The Dark Forest. There'll be a darkness about the song. I think it's going to feel like we're traversing through a forest, through an undergrowth, uncovering things. Maybe there'll be a little secret in there because forests normally are hiding secrets, but forests are also dense, which is why I think there's going to be all these different layers going on. Something similar to Algorithm is what I'm predicting, and I think it's going to end in a big wall of sound or a wall of distortion that would transition perfectly into the siren kind of sound we hear in Night Shift Superstar. We know what Night Shift Superstar sounds like. It's the groovy bassline song, bit more dancey, bit more mainstream. I think The Dark Forest is going to be a bit more progressive. I'm thinking like Newborn and Bliss for The Dark Forest and Night Shift Superstar. It doesn't sound like Night Shift Superstar is going to lead into the next song, which would be Shimmering Scars. But when I look at this song and I look at its title, I think it's meant to be a play on words for Shimmering Stars, continuing the space theme. And if I was going to build a soundscape for a song called Shimmering Stars, I'd want it to reflect the night sky. I think I'd choose some synths. I'd have some of the synths or twinkly noises populating the stereo field to make it sound like you're looking up at a broad night sky and can see twinkling or shimmering stars all around you. I think the song will be a bit more conventional. I think it will be verse, chorus, bridge, and final chorus. It's only 4.5 minutes, but this is a bit of a question mark song for me because I'm not really sure what this song is going to be. I've locked in my prediction of a synth-based song, but it could be more of a guitar solo song, maybe, like Guiding Light or something, and it could be acoustic, but I don't think that's going to be the acoustic song on this album. I think the acoustic song will be Hush. Anyway, after Shimmering Scars, we have Cryogen, which makes me think that there's a possibility Shimmering Scars will end also in a wall of distortion to transition into the fuzzy intro of Cryogen. That would be pretty cool. Cryogen is our big stompy riff. It's got the big breakdown at the end, very Stockholm Syndrome sounding. It's got the fuzzy guitar riff, a little bit plug-in baby sounding. It's got a really cool bridge and middle section that's different from the verses and choruses. It's got a great pre-chorus. It's just a classic Muse single, one of the most Muse songs I've heard. A little bit of old, a little bit of new. And the song after that, we already know what that is. That's that's Be With You. That is another conventionally structured song, even though it's verse, chorus, solo, essentially, or bridge solo, and then one final chorus. The way each verse and chorus is structured is quite unconventional. Instead of just repeating, the first verse is in organ, and then the second verse is electronic, and the final chorus has distorted elements. So we've got a conventional song that has an unconventional style. And that's why I think across Be With You, Night Shift Superstar, and Shimmering Scars, we'll have 3 songs with a roughly conventional song structure, but both Night Shift Superstar and Be With You, despite being the more accessible songs, do still have unconventional elements, so I am expecting Shimmering Scars to have an unconventional style or element. After Be With You is Hexagons. That's the really progressive long song. That's like our space dementia of the album. Really great song. I've got videos on it. And we know that Hexagons directly transitions into the next song, which is The Sickness in You and I. And cheating a little bit, but if the rumors are to be believed, then this is a song in drop D that has a heavy riff. It's only 4 minutes 17, which makes me think this is going to be a heavy stomper of a track. Maybe something like The Handler, but without the extended solo at the end. If it does have a solo, I'm only expecting the solo to be as long as the Unraveling solo, which is really short. Only 4 bars. Because I think this is going to be a drop D song, I'm going to say D minor for the key. It could be G minor, but I'm going to say D minor and hope it isn't D Phrygian. The song after that is Unraveling. We know how that sounds. It's got electronic elements in the verses. It's got a Doom Eternal style riff in the pre-chorus. It has a really big anthemic chorus, and it has a heavy breakdown, an 8-string chuggy breakdown. I think Unraveling is going to be the only song on the album that has the 8-string being used for a breakdown, because this is the 8th track on the album. The only other song that seems like it might be heavy up to this point is The Sickness in You and I. And if you put the 8-string in that song, then what it does is it takes away from the impact of using the 8-string in Unraveling. If there was going to be more of that heaviness going down to drop E, I would expect Unraveling to be earlier in the track listing, but I think that is going to be the only song that has this. And that is going to be its unique element. Optimistically, I'd like to think that we still have really heavy moments in The Dark Forest and in Space Debris, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Unraveling is going to have that type of heaviness confined to it. And after Unraveling, we then have Hush. And if you think about the songs so far, we had Hexagons, The Sickness in You and I, Unraveling, all in a row, and they're probably all going to be really heavy songs. They're quite intense, very dramatic at the very least. I think Hush will be the little break, the little calm between Unraveling and Space Debris, because I am expecting Space Debris to have some grandness about it. It does say on Wikipedia that Hush is featuring Ellie Goulding, and I haven't seen any corroboration of that. I don't really want to know if that's true. I guess we'll find out. But I don't want that to be true. I don't really want to hear anyone singing on a Muse song other than Matt Bellamy, to be honest. I'm not a big fan of Ellie Goulding. I wouldn't mind if Ellie Goulding was harmonizing with Matt. That could be quite interesting. But I don't want her to have like a whole verse or to sing the whole song, or it to feel intrusive. I don't really like when we have those kind of collaborations in any band, to be honest. So I'm hoping that that's not the case, but I'm expecting Hush, as I said before, to be the acoustic song on the album. I think this song is going to have a lot in common with Ghost's How Can I Move On from Will of the People. I think it will occupy a similar space in the album as that song did for that one. I think it could just be like piano only, like maybe some guitars, maybe some drums in the background, like Ruled by Secrecy or something. But I think it really could just be a piano-based song. That's what my gut is telling me. And I'm not sure what the key could be, but I'm going to say F sharp minor. And that does include relative major of A major. I think that's possible. My second best guess is C minor, but that is really wishful thinking because I just really like the key of C minor, and I really like when Muse write in the key of C minor, and I don't think they're going to do it, but I can dream, I can hope. And the last track is Space Debris. This song is 5 minutes and 23. It's only 3 seconds shorter than Hexagons, which means this is going to have an extended structure. I think we're going to have a long intro that takes us a while to ease into the song. Like how I said The Dark Forest I think will have stuff in common with Algorithm, I think Space Debris will have a lot in common with The Void. I do think this album is going to open and close quite similarly to Simulation Theory, which would absolutely not be a bad thing at all because I actually really like Algorithm, I really like The Void, and conceptually those are good ways to open your album. And I do think Space Debris will have this arpeggiating intro at the start, maybe in C minor or G minor, something quite dark and foreboding like The Void. But then over time, over the course of the song, more and more layers come in. Because its name is similar to Space Dementia, it does make me wonder if there's going to be the sort of Space Dementia style outro we heard in Hexagons, but I don't think so because I don't think they'd copy that across 2 songs in this album. So I am a bit at a loss for what this song would sound like. I think it's going to open like The Void, I think it's going to open with arpeggios, and I think it's going to build, but I don't know how it's going to end. Maybe it'll end like Take a Bow, which would be a strange way to end the album. I think it will end with a lot of noise or distortion, fizzling out, maybe a bit like hypochondriac music. Honestly, that would be the best case scenario if Space Debris was like a hypochondriac music kind of song. I'd love that. But I think it's going to probably have more of a wall of sound, stadium rock quality to it. And I just don't really know how that's going to sound, other than the outro to Space Dementia, which we already had. So very curious to find out what Space Debris sounds like. And I'm going to lock in the key of E minor for that one, I think. I would be quite surprised if the song didn't end in the key of E minor. So those are my thoughts. This will be the last Wow Signal video I do before the album comes out. So I'm very excited, very curious to hear what other people think before the songs will inevitably be released online before their official release date. Please do be aware of the fact that some people may not want to have the songs spoiled, even if it's like reading a description of the song. I don't think I'm going to be posting anything about it, but if I were to accidentally come across all of the songs, or I just couldn't help myself, I could see myself talking about them, but I think I'm going to have discipline. I'm going to try my best not to listen to anything that pops up. You know, I'm excited. I want to remain excited. I don't want to ruin that because it could go either way. There is tons of Muse content coming out of this channel right now, so what you need to do to make sure you don't miss any of it is like and subscribe, check out the videos because there's been so many. I mean, it's basically every single day I'm uploading something. So if you are a Muse fan, what are you doing if you aren't subscribed? Get on that.